What up people, how's it going? This is Bharat here. Welcome back to another video on ReactJS. I didn't want to start this video with a presentation or anything of that sort because we've already covered a very important concept called states in the previous video. If you haven't watched that video, I would highly recommend you guys to go watch that because you're going to be depending this video on this concept of states. So what does states really mean? It's going to give a life to the components. In this video, we're going to be seeing what does really the states going to do and how we can interoperate between components with these states. This concept of lifting state up, what does it even mean and how can you do it without making a mistake is what is going to be concept for today. I'm going to create a couple of components here and create a simple application. So by end of this video, you'll be understanding what does really lifting the state up mean. We'll start directly with a simple class level component here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a component that's going to separate us and give us a value depending on the user's input. For example, let's say the user is inputting a number between 1 and 100. If the number is below 50, we're going to say the number is below 50, and if it's above 50, we're going to say above 50. So that's going to be the concept of this video. So we can create a simple class or the component call as, let me call it classifier, something like this. There are a lot of examples out there and a lot of them are really complex. I thought you guys will automatically pick this up when it comes, but again, this is a very important concept, so I'll make sure that this is properly transferred to you people. So just create a simple constructor here. I hope you guys all know what a constructor does and why are we requiring a constructor in this video. We will require a super of props here, and once that is done, we will require I'll create a simple method here. I'll say handle value change, something like this. It's going to take a value. I'll tell you what this method is going to do, but we have to define our handle value change. Again, this method was covered as part of the bind method. What does bind method do in that video? So make sure to watch that video as well. So let's call it this way, and we'll also create a simple state level variable called as value. No, value will be a very generic keyword. Let me call it user val. Let it be empty for now. Alright, so this couple of methods here. What next we're going to do is create a simple render method, and we'll say that if you will allow the user to enter an input value, so the user is going to enter an input value, we can say that he or she, the value that they're going to return can be considered as lesser than or greater than a value. So let's do a couple of things again here. We'll have a simple field set. So what does field set actually really going to do is it's going to give this is HTML5 if you guys are not very comfortable with that. Why is it saying this to me right now? Oh shit, this should have been this. Alright, so field set, and we can directly go on and get an input value from the user. Let's get an input value, and we'll do not forget to create a simple p tag or something like that. So actually tell the user what he or she is inputting. Input a number between 1 and 100. So this is going to be the user's input tag. So when the user enters a value here, we're going to catch that value, and we're going to pass it on to this handle value change method. So this handle value change method is it's going to be stored as part of this is going to be on click on change. So when the user's value changes, it's going to be passed on to this handle value change. But what exactly is the value going to be? We don't have a way to handle this value here. So what I'm going to do now is create a simple local variable here. Let me call it user value, and I'm going to say this state user value. So this way, when the user's value changes, we can capture that as part of the user value here. Alright, so this is what is going to be my simple input value. So again, next thing that we have to know is, like I told you, return something here or something of this sort here, a simple p tag, which will say user, you have entered a value greater than 100 or less than 100 or less than 50 or whatever value we have as the median. Why is it seeing this? So that's going to be our idea, right? So what we can do, another thing is that we'll create a simple component, and that's going to be our class level component. Again, I'll call it we'll create a simple method component here. Let's say confirm classifier or something like this. This classifier is going to take a props, and we can do just pass if props dot user value is going to be greater than 50. We're going to return a p tag with the positive message, or from the again props itself we can return the positive message, props dot positive message, and else return props dot negative message. Awesome. So this is what you're going to do. So what is the positive negative message that we're going to send? We can do two things here. Again, send out a simple classifier as a, make sure to always confirm classifier. I'll write it as part of the outside this. So confirm classifier is going to do two things. We can now pass the user value itself in this way, and we can say positive message. What is that? A positive message as a parameter, and we can say greater than 50, and negative message is going to be less than 50. This looks clean to me so far. This is a little bit of cleaner way of representing everything. So what exactly have we done here is we have created a simple, why is it throwing an error here? One parent element. Okay, let me wrap this inside a div and it will become a one parent element. All this JSX standard is creating chaos. Awesome. So what we have done is we have taken the user's input, we have handled that, and we are saying is greater than or lesser than 50. So one more remaining portion is this part here where we have to confirm, we have to perform this, we have to make sure that the state is set. So we directly call a set state method here, and we can directly say temp user value is going to be from here. I'm going to say e dot target dot value. So what does exactly this mean? So whenever the user value is entered as part of this on change, it's going to be captured in a target and dot value. So this on change user's value is going to be captured in this part, and I'm setting it to user's value again here, and which will again in turn fire this part up, and this will pass it on to our confirm classifier, and it'll say it's greater than or less than 50. Alright, so my server is already running. Let me check it here. Home app is not defined. Oh my god, home app is not there. I have to make sure that it's classifier. I have to pass a classifier class here. This is from the previous videos. Awesome. So it's say input a number between 1 and 100. It's already saying less than 50 because there is no number. So let me enter a number 66. It's getting greater than 50. 6 less than 50. Awesome, right? This is working as expected. 100 again. 99. 1. Awesome. So exactly working as we expected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another simple component here. I'm going to call this as home app now. Extends the react.component. I'm going to make it very fast now. So what we are going to do is we're going to render return and the return part we're gonna say two things. We're gonna say classifier, another classifier. Now instead of, we have two classifiers here, right? Okay, it's just you have to put it inside a div. We'll put it inside a div and let's make it happy. Now what it technically it will do is nothing but take two input values. It's not going to even react for that because there is nothing majorly happening here. So what we need now is to have two different props here. Two different props. What if you pass a different props here and it says something else for us now? For example, let's pass this property value of from the props, or user is going to pass the props value. Props, it's going to be props dot positive message, and here it's going to be props dot negative message. So technically what we are saying is that the user is going to confirm the positive and the negative message, whereas the classification is going to remain the same for us. So what we are going to do again is that we're going to send a positive message as a parameter here, or the property. I'll say number classification is good, and negative message is going to be classification is bad. Whereas the next positive message is going to say that student has passed the exam, something like that, because let's assume it's just a simple classifier, student has passed the exam. Whereas the negative message, it's going to be student has failed the exam. Alright, so let's change this to a home app and we'll run it. We'll see for ourselves what is happening. Alright, let's run it now. What does it say? It says that process not defined, not diff. Okay, we're going to do two things. You can either store it inside a simple constant before the render happens. So let me store the positive message is equal to this dot. Okay, I got what happened here. It should have been this dot props. My bad. Alright, so we have got two classifiers here. So we have entering 44 and 100. And again we have to come here and enter a 55 or the same number again here. So what technically the user will require to see is that when you enter 100 here, it should also autofill here and still give us a different classification. Well, that's what expectation was when we created this. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to do here. So I'm going to enter number, say for example 44. The 44 should also come here and we should get a 44 and it should say that student has passed the exam or failed the exam or anything of that sort, but it is not happening. So why is that? Because what we have here is that you have a class component called as a classifier which has its own states, and again we are defining another classifier which is technically the same component, but now it will have its own states. There is no relation or there is no communication between these two classifiers to say that this state has to be passed to the bottom one and vice versa again. So why is that happening? That is because we are not sharing the state. So the simple concept in React says that whenever you want to share a state, just move it to one step above. For example, here for us, this is going to be the bottom level state and this is going to be our topmost component because we are directly calling it here. So when you want to conform or when you want to transfer states between two different components, just push it one step above and make sure that state is present in this class rather than this class. So technically what you're going to do is just do some refactor work here and move this state level representations to this part and still keep all of these things intact, so that technically we have a simple way of communicating the states between these two classifications, and we are good to go. So that is the entire concept of moving the states up. I'll show you guys how to do that as well. It's very, very simple again. Alright, so what additionally we're going to do is we have to move this portion to this part, right? So we have to give it a little bit of state. I have to again create a constructor for this. So first thing first, just create a simple constructor always, because whenever we are going to be playing with states, the constructor is going to be very, very important. So create a constructor here, and we are going to create another simple class state variable. The state value is going to be this dot state, and we are going to create just like we did it here. So we're going to create our state itself here, move the state part here. Now this part is done. Next part is going to be this handle change. Let the handle change be handled here itself. Let us not move that. Rather, what we can do is take this portion here and put it here. Like, let's remove the dependency of user value, this handle change and everything from here, and move it to this part. So what I'm technically trying to do is that, alright, so just like I told you, we have to remove the state from here and just make it independent of state. Now we have moved the state here and we have done everything here, but what are we missing? We are missing a way to communicate between these two classifiers. So what we can do now is that let's make sure that everything here is independent of state, and it's going to be dependent on the props rather than the state. So this is going to be user value. The user value is going to be coming from here. Let it still be like this. And what we're going to do is create a simple method called as handle state change. Let's call it as simple as that, and we'll have a value for this. So this handle state change is technically going to do is that it's going to make sure we are setting the state for the entire thing whenever the value changes. For example, let's call that this dot set state. I'll tell you what happens when you do that, and we're going to say is that user value to value. So what technically we are doing is that we're going to be passing this itself as a property, and whenever the user is going to change on this, it's going to fire this part and it's going to refresh everything. So how can we do that technically? All we have to do is just pass this also, like this on temperature. Similarly, we're going to fire this here as well. So this on handle state change is going to be used as part of the above method that we have, or the above React component that we have. So how can we do that again? It's simple as, so we have on handle state change, and we are going to be using that in the props value, which is going to be from here. Instead of doing the user value, instead of doing this dot set state, all you have to do is just call the this dot props dot on handle state change, and I'm going to pass the target value to this one. So I'm really sure this might work. So what we are doing is we are removing all the dependency of states, and instead of states we are going to be completely depending on the props here. So this is only going to handle the state. So with the state's going to be here, we have a simple on handle state change. So whenever the state changes, this method has to fire, and when this method fires, this part will also fire, and that is how we are going to require this change in the value. So when that happens, how are you going to trigger this change happening? That is very, very simple. We are passing that as a props itself, and this props is being handled here. So we are seeing that on handle state change, which is nothing but this part, pass this function as its value. So it's going to come here, and this value is going to be passed, and it's going to be fired. I'm really not sure if this is going to work. Alright, the method is still running. So let me try this 44 here. Okay, it's firing. It's saying that this dot set state is a validated value. What is the exact error here? Do you have a state? Oh, yeah, we did not bind this method. This is like as simple as, do not make all these mistakes. All right, it's not working. Okay, we're forgetting another thing. We are forgetting to pass the props here. Will this fire? Let's see. I'm actually not sure. 44. All right. 99. Whew. Yeah, awesome. Finally, we have done that. So, did you see what I'm trying to do here? 99. 55 is pass. 5 is fail. 1 is fail. 0 fail. 1, 2 fail. 66. Classification is good. Student has passed the exam. So, technically, what did we really do? I hope this I haven't confused you guys so much. What we did was just remove the states from here and put it here. And once we did that, we created a simple method to handle the state change. So for example, you very well know that when you call set state, only when you call the set state, the render is going to be called once again. So when that happens, we need to have a method that can do that for us. Now that method is there. Now how are you going to pass it to our classifier method here? We're going to pass it as part of the properties. The properties is going to be having a key called as on handle state change, and that is going to take the method itself as a property. Now what this brilliant classifier method is going to do, it's directly just going to call the props and pass this target value. Is it as saying that just handle everything to your place? I'm not going to do anything with that. Just push it here. And when it pushes it here, it automatically setting the state back, and we are also passing the user value as a state here again. So user value, when you set the user value only, it is going to show here. That is why we are passing the user value as part of states, and it's going to show it here. And when the user changes the value also, we can clearly see it. So that is how simple you can push your states up, and on pushing the states up, we can perform this portion, this part of the technicality here. So this is very, very important in terms of how we can directly see the change that is happening here. For example, let's open this part up. We'll open this up as well. So there are two different classification, two different field set. So we can very clearly see that. Let me change the value 22. Can you see that it's automatically changing without even refreshing a lot of things? I can give 100 and it's automatically changing. So that's the unique portion about ReactJS is handling the states and properties. So this video is informative. I hope you guys did learn something through this. If you did, do not forget to smash that like button as well as the subscribe button, and let me meet you in the next video. Until then, it's Bharat. Peace out. Have a super awesome day.